All right, we are back and we're going to cover just one more aspect of how the revenue tracker works. I just love to point out the fact that you're accessing it from a non-originator account. That means it's almost always in the shared with me folder. So if you go into shared with me, then you'll have the opportunity to go into JotForm. From JotForm, it's Detail Revenue Tracker 3.0. So just as a really quick recap, what do all of the sheets do? So the first and foremost is this very first page. This has quite literally everything. There are 80 tours on here right now, ranging from the 1st of January all the way to the end of March. I am still currently missing all the February entries because I'm working backwards to get them all in. So please do not touch this sheet. Don't do any edits with this sheet. I created a whole blank one that says just do not touch this sheet. That's, pretty self-explanatory. The edit this page is where I'm allowing editing so that I can keep track of various aspects of it. But edit this is just a duplicate of sheet one. The first three sheets in this are just information for the formulas to compute. The last three sheets are the most important. The single most important one is going to be details. You'll notice the details has the conditional formatting to tell us what is profitable over $200 and red for what is not profitable at all whatsoever. If you want to condense this down into some quick tidbits, check out the At a Glance tab. In the At a Glance tab, you have a drop-down menu for each company. The joy of the drop-down menu is we could start to measure very specific things. Over 9 tours, the brunch tour has an average profit of $16.68 per person, which is actually worse than the average of every single tour you run. So what is weighing that down? Probably the Moscow Mule experience, Best Beer of Denver experience. But then you look at things like Whiskey and History, boom, you make 17.27 average profit per person. Because every time you get a full price Whiskey and History tour, it just jacks that average up way high. Notice that everything has a formula to it. So the formulas are pulling from the raw data. And as we add more raw data, these things will change. So if you want to explore the comedy bus tour, you could do it. Then every week I'm going to create this at a glance. These numbers aren't totally accurate because since I've created these numbers, I've added a couple of tours that make this very specific. So you'll notice the Whiskey and Jazz tour, you average 50% full price tours. But the Whiskey and Jazz tours only make up 5% of your total tours. You average 5 people per tour on the Whiskey and Jazz, which is pretty good. And your average profit on any given Whiskey and Jazz tour is 24.5 per person or 105 per tour. So these at a glance numbers will help us really start measuring different tours. Notice the Craft Beer Bonanza has an average profit of $2.79 per person. That is terrible. I've only sold 1% of those tours at 1%. However, look at the Comedy Bus tour. I make $16 per person, even though I've never sold a full price tour. And it makes up 25% of my total tours. And I average 14 people, meaning it's virtually sold out every single time I do it. So you could check out the Centennial Tours has made $6,781 in revenue. Denver Brews and Booze is about 4,000, so catching up kind of nicely. So I just want you to understand this at a glance page because it is very important. It's going to cover every date from whatever the minimum value is on that page all the way to the maximum value on that page. So as we add more tours, you're going to see this date go up. And if we add any historical tours, this date will go down. That brings me to the final and most important piece of this puzzle, and that is the details page. On the details page, you have access to a condensed version of all of the information. The day, the week number it falls under, the guide who ran the tour, my pay if I got paid, the company that ran the tour, which tour is it if it's Denver Brews and Booze, which tour is it if it's Centennial Tours, How many people were on the tour? What venues did you visit? Did you make any tips? What was the total money you spent on this tour? What is the total revenue Denver Brews and Booze made? What is the total revenue Centennial Tours made? What is the total profit Denver Brews and Booze made? Notice when the profit is negative, it automatically turns red. What is the profit Centennial Tours made? Notice it turns green automatically if Centennial Tours is making a profit. The submission ID is so we could go back and track errors. You'll notice this is an example of an error that I'm about to go back and fix. I accidentally put the cost in Denver Brews and Booze while all the revenue was on Centennial Tours. So I'll correct that error using the submission. Last is, what is the true amount of full price tickets we sold? What was the cost per person of that specific tour? What was the revenue per person of that specific tour? What was the profit per person of that specific tour? And what percentage of full price guests were on that specific tour? So the power that comes from the details sheet of our revenue tracker is this thing right here. Got to pay very special attention. This little filter button is without a doubt the most powerful thing. So what I do is I select all. I have to select everything. I could have done this with the keyboard shortcut Control A, but now that I've selected everything, I can turn on the filter. Once the filter is turned on, I can say I only want to see tours that come from Centennial Tours. Boom, shuts it down to a short list of only Centennial Tours. Maybe I'll say, not only do I only want to see Centennial Tours, but I only want to see the brunch tour. So I'm going to uncheck everything so that I only have the brunch tour checked. Now look at it. Look at how many greens we have. The brunch tour is without a doubt your most popular tour. And I have 2 instances of errors that I'm about to correct. But in the meantime, I just really want to put that out there that you could use the filter to see all the Best Beer of Denver tours. Oh, wow. Best Beer of Denver never lost money, never made more than $200 in profit. So we have a really powerful tour here. One of the things that surprised me is the Moscow Mule. There are a few instances in which the Moscow Mule lost money, but then you'll notice it happened to be when I was running the tour because we didn't really account for my pay. So we can really use a tool like this to start determining what tours should I run, and so forth. So I'm going to start to clear. Okay. I don't want to see any of the Centennial Tours. So now I'm only looking at Denver Brews and Booze. So again, very, very powerful tool to be able to, just search through things. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to correct that mistake that I made earlier. And in the meantime, let me show you something neat. So this filter, I can't see anything. What's the matter? I can just turn off the filter and everything will come back in its original format. Right now, none of these are in order, so I might turn on the filter just so that I can leave them sorted by date. That tends to be a really helpful thing for going back and studying this information. So I turned off the filter, but before I did, I sorted them all by date. So now the 415 is the oldest, and 11 is the newest. And you'll notice we go from 114 to 33. So I'm currently missing all of February and some of January. We're going to go back and enter those in kind of slowly but surely. Thanks for watching.